gentlemen, welcome back to another very special, as always, episode of the Hyperconscious Podcast. We hope you enjoyed our latest episode where Alan and I sat down and we did a small talks rep on discipline and why it is important to have it. Today, for episode number 354, we are going to do a scratching the surface episode on the process of mastery.
So if you've been a long time listener of this show, you know that I'm probably super excited for this topic. So why are we doing mastery? I think that first and foremost, we talk about this a lot, but a lot of times people get caught in the habit of majoring in minor things, right? There are a few things in life that really matter. Everything matters, but not everything matters equally. And so this episode is about not only the process of mastery, but also choosing in advance what you want to master based on the quality of life that you specifically want.
Well, I think, and one of the reasons this is happening is because you and I are both coaching people who are running businesses, and it's different. Like, there's a different level of discipline and commitment that it takes to succeed in business. You do have to try to master that business. You have to master your habits. You have to master the things that are the most important. So I think a lot of people just want to quote unquote succeed. They want to be successful. Right? And in your mind, what's the difference between setting the intention to be successful and mastering something?
I think success is a byproduct of mastery. So a simple example of that would be Tom Brady. So Tom Brady, long before he was Tom Brady, was on the bench still mastering his craft, waiting for his opportunity to step up. And I believe it was 2006?
I don't even remember.
Or 2005. I forget when, but Drew Bledsoe was the main quarterback of the Patriots back then. And you know, Tom Brady was 199th draft pick. No one really thought that much of him necessarily. And he was still mastering his craft behind the scenes so that when opportunity struck, he was able to shine. And I think that that's the thing, right? We look at
2000.
Success on the outside.
2000.
It was in 2000?
Well, his first game was in 2000.
Was that when Bledsoe got hurt?
2001. Bledsoe got hurt.
Thank you for clarifying that. I like how we can look that up on the fly.
Right.
So Tom Brady, I often say this in my speeches, we see him for 30 seconds on the podium with the Super Bowl trophy 6 times, but we don't see the 30 years that it took him to get there. And what's interesting about this is like just the only reason I say this isn't because it's necessarily going to resonate for you specifically, like in your own life, but just to shift your mindset for a second. Let's say Tom Brady really liked to play pickup basketball on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays instead of football. He's automatically not Tom Brady.
Right.
Now, maybe you don't want to be the best in the world at something, okay? I understand that. But what I will tell you is this: success on the outside, public success, is a byproduct of what you've done and practiced and mastered for years, sometimes decades in private. And so we have this weird thing about overnight success. If you look at anyone at the top of their game in any industry, it's because they're very mastery driven. They're working hard every single day to get really good at what they do.
What does mastery mean? Like, what does mastering something actually mean?
So there's another quote that I use often of like, the greatest masters are always the ones most excited to be a student. So for example, you and I learn from David Meltzer constantly. Why? Because he's mastered podcasting to a much greater extent than us. He's far more successful than us in certain regards. And so what does mastery mean? Mastery means deciding in advance to get great at something, truly great, to really study it, practice it, teach it, to design a life around it. Because if you're listening to this podcast, you believe what we believe, which is that life is about impact. It's about your effect on others. It's about helping other people. But what's interesting is you can't do that at a great level unless you first master your own craft.
Yep.
And a great analogy is if I want to give you 12 oranges, I have to go learn how to pick oranges. And so if you want to give love, if you want to give money to a charity you believe in, if you want to start a business that helps other people, either with products or services, first you have to master business. First you have to master love. First you have to master communication. And so I think a lot of what people think they want is actually a byproduct of something far deeper, which is mastery. And I think that that's why I'm so excited to talk about this.
I think the other, Jesus, I keep squeaking. I think the other thing is the mud is different when you are trying to master something. Like, if you want to be the best fighter in the world, getting punched in the face for a week is just par for the course. And you're going to look at it differently. Like, oh, I actually watched a fight last night. there was a UFC on last night, and there's this guy named Glover Teixeira. And when he started, he was terrible, and he was getting his ass kicked. But he believed he could be the best in the world. And he actually won last night. He beat somebody ranked a lot higher than him. And it makes it different when you want to be the best, because you understand, like, this isn't for nothing. I'm not just going through pain to go through pain,
Right.
or I'm not just learning this lesson to learn this lesson. I'm learning this lesson because this is what is required of me to end up where I want to be.
Right.
And it's that, again, it's the destination. Of course, the journey is important, but the journey is predicated on the destination that you set.
Right.
You know what I mean? So,
like, if you want to drive to LA from Boston, it's going to be a very different journey than if you want to drive from Boston to Worcester.
Right.
You know what I mean? One of them is going to be far more challenging, and therefore you're going to grow more and contribute more along the way. And I think that's the most interesting piece of this, is like, people say like they don't want to be the best in the world. That's fine. It has nothing to do with that. It has to.
What is the difference? What is the difference? How can you, if I want to master relationships, right? And it's unique to me because I love talking about relationships too. But like, what if somebody just wants to master something, to master it for their own sake so they can get the results?
I think that's okay. I think.
How do they do that?
So the process of mastery, you and I have talked a lot about this in our speeches and on the podcast. Study, practice, teach is a really good framework. So if you want to master relationships, you should be studying relationships. One of my main clients is reading a book on marriage, and I told her, I said, I am so proud of you, because you're not even married, you're not even in a relationship, and you're still studying the arena. And when she has a successful relationship and a successful marriage, and you see her and whoever she's with together, and you see love and passion, you're going to think, oh, like some people would think, oh, she must have gotten lucky and found her person. No, she was studying 5 years prior to that how to be good at relationships, right? So all success on the surface is a byproduct of mastery. I'm so convinced of that. And so if you're out there right now and you don't want to be the best in the world at something, but you do want to be the best version of yourself in relationships, let's try to reframe that. Kevin and myself went into podcasting, and we didn't just say, hey, we want a podcast for the sake of podcasting. Maybe at the very, very beginning that was the case, but very quickly it turned into, at the time, you wanted to be like Joe Rogan,
Yep,
who was at the very top of the podcasting game, and I wanted to be like Tony Robbins, who was at the very top of the speaking game. Podcasting and speaking, it's interesting, very synchronistic. Now, your main focus was podcasting, and now you're a speaker. My main focus was speaking, and now I'm a podcaster, right? So it's very cool how we drove to 5 on this. But what's interesting is we didn't just come out of the gate saying, hey, let's give this a shot. We came out of the gate saying, you know what? Let's shoot to be the best that we possibly can in this industry. And that mentality, dude, you and I can say from experience, I mean, when it got brutal, we took that adversity and used it as advantage. I mean, we used to talk about failing forward all the time. Why did we always talk about that? Because we were constantly failing.
Yeah.
You know, and so I think mastery is study your craft, practice your craft, teach your craft, design your life around your craft, and fail forward as much as possible.
It's interesting. It's interesting that we're talking about this. I had somebody reach out to me today, and this is the first time anybody's ever asked me this question, which was interesting. And part of me was like, okay, you can't go ego-centered here. He said, hey, I love what you're doing. Like, I love your stuff. No bad intentions with this question, but what exactly are your, what is your experience / not education, but like
credentials.
Credentials, yeah. And it was like, interesting. So I sat there and I was thinking like, okay, what am I going to say to this? Because I respond to like every message I get. And I'm thinking to myself, 350 podcast episodes.
Right.
I don't know how many hours.
About personal development.
Yeah.
That's the key.
Right.
It's not just podcast episodes. It's about the human
same
condition.
Thing.
Right.
Honestly, and I wish we talked about this earlier, because I would have said I have set my life up to master the things that I'm doing.
You have, Kev.
That is what I'm doing. My system of success is to master. There's a reason I'm reading what I'm reading, right? I was listening to the Untethered Soul today. Right? I've been diving in between that and Profit First. You know, I always like to do different things. I don't want to just know a lot. I want to be centered, right? I want to master the internal world and the external world. But it was interesting from the aspect of like, by all outside standards, I don't really have any credentials.
Good.
Really.
I'll tell you what one of my mentors told me, and I think this will be a good takeaway for the listeners too. I started fitness coaching, as you know, a couple of years ago. And a lot of people ask me that question of like, you don't have a degree though. You didn't go to school for this. You didn't even take your personal trainer's test. And one of my mentors said, when I was struggling with this at the time, he said, you don't need credentials, Alan. You have a PhD in results.
Right.
And honestly,
that's kind of what I was trying to say without saying it.
Yeah, it sounds arrogant, but it is true.
It's hard to.
It is true.
Hard to send. Like, what have I done? I went from suicidal to living my dreams in 3 years. That's
exactly.
what I. Now,
right.
Was it that easy? God, no. God,
right.
no. It
right.
was brutal. It was brutal. But it depends. Like, that's the thing. If you come to me and say I'm looking for therapy, I'm not your guy. I'm going to send you to somebody like Carol, who we talked to.
Exactly.
Right. That's what I'm going to do. If you come to me and say like I'm looking for Facebook ads, I'm not your guy. I'm not a digital marketer. Now, do I know some things about marketing? Sure, but not a ton, not enough to say like I'm a marketing coach.
Right.
So I do think that it's like I have chosen in advance, and I know we're going to talk about this, to be the best at 3 or 4 things in the world that I can possibly be. Speaker, podcaster, podcast agent, and the best version of me.
Right.
Right. And then the other things, and I would love to go deeper into this. The other things I understand that I'm not going to be the best in the world at. I'm okay with that because I'm not willing to invest that time. But like rapping, I think I'm a good rapper. I don't want to be the best in the world.
Right. Imagine if you did. Your whole life would shift.
I thought about that the other day.
Exactly. Your whole life would be different. So it's interesting.
I went on this when I was 16.
Right.
I don't know what would happen. But if I am the best podcaster in the world, I guarantee I can make an album that will sell.
Exactly.
That's the other thing.
That's the key. If you go all in and master one thing, other dreams will come true as a byproduct of that. And I think we have a fundamental misunderstanding of that.
How do you decipher? Right. So I know I've decided podcasting, speaking, best version of myself, podcast agency.
Right.
That's 4 things.
Right.
How do you decipher? Like, what if I wanted to be the best podcaster, rapper, Muay Thai fighter, speaker? Like, is that too many things?
Interesting. So that's a great question, Kev. So first and foremost, the thing that I'll tell all the listeners right now is that if you don't make a decision to go all in on something, you're never even going to know if that thing was for you or not. So instead of sitting here with all this ambiguity and all this uncertainty, like uncertainty is the enemy of taking action. Yeah. You can't master anything without taking action. I mean, if you
procrastination.
Right. And so uncertainty, I think, is the reason why most people procrastinate. And I'm not just saying this again. I don't have a degree in this, but I do have hundreds of hours, and I have at this point over 1,000 hours coaching, podcasting, and speaking. I've actually tracked that. And that's actually why I track that, is because when someone comes to me, you don't have any credentials. I have thousands of hours doing this in this arena. And so when it comes to inspiring someone to start, to motivating them to keep going, and then educating them on how to get what they want, I've got thousands of hours in that arena. So it is what it is. Now, that said, how do you decipher what you should and shouldn't be doing? Number one, life is about choices. I would say 3. I like 3. And I was watching a TED Talk last night. This is very synchronistic. There's something about 3. And whether it's the 3 Musketeers or the Holy Trinity, I don't know. The point is this. If you could wake up tomorrow, rub a lamp, and a genie popped out and said you could be the best in the world at any 3 things, what would it be? And here's the cool part. If you master those 3 things and really go all in on those 3 things, I bet you will have opportunities to make those other dreams kind of come true. And I'll end on this. I had a coach once. His name was Alex Goad, and I've said the story before, but this was really hard for me because he was trying to get me to get clarity back then. And I had all these dreams, right? I wanted to be the greatest speaker. I wanted to be the greatest natural aesthetic men's physique fitness model. I wanted to be the greatest leader. I wanted to be the greatest podcaster. I wanted to create all these dreams. And he said, Alan, like, I've studied and worked with the most successful people in the world. And he said, this was not an ego thing, but I made $1.3 million in 6 days online. And I can tell you from experience, having seen this over and over and over again, that you will never get anywhere unless you go all in on one thing. And so he said, if you could only ever achieve one of those dreams that you just talked about, which one would you choose? And at the time, Kev, I chose the podcast.
Yeah.
I said, the Hyperconscious podcast is what my heart is telling me is the greatest source of your impact. Like the amount of fulfillment and growth and challenge and excitement and fun and travel that comes from this.
Yeah.
And he said, go all in on the podcast and all the other dreams will come true.
Well, if you look at somebody like, I think of this all the time, Michael Jordan,
right?
LeBron James, do they make a lot of money from their contracts? Sure. They make twice as much from their endorsements. Michael Jordan has restaurants now.
Right.
Shaquille O'Neal,
right.
he has like car washes, restaurants, laundromats. All of that is because he is Shaquille O'Neal and he had the money, obviously. But like, you put your name on something, for a lot of people, it sells. Why do you think Gap uses celebrities? Why do you think car insurance companies use celebrities? Right? Because they know you'll buy from them. So it's interesting. It's like you want to get to the highest point you can, but when you get up there, the view is different and you get to see
more opportunities, more people,
rooftops, right?
More networking.
Yeah.
Kev, you just hit a very good point that I want to make sure our listeners really grasp. And I'm not assuming that our listeners don't already know this, but let's really think about this for a second. What's the difference between Marshall Mathers and Eminem? What's the real difference? His work.
Yeah.
His work. That the body of work is bigger than the person. If Leonardo DiCaprio, why do all of us know his name? Why? It's because of Titanic. It's because of the movies. It's because of Shutter Island. It's because of The Departed. Probably not Shutter Island, but it's because of all these movies. The point is this: the work. I mean, dude, James Clear, another perfect example, wrote Atomic Habits. Why do we want to have James Clear on the show? Let's be real for a second. Because he wrote a book that adds massive value. Okay, for our listeners, for this episode, for me, for you, Kev, if life is about your effect on other people, and you can only affect other people to the extent that you personally have grown, how do you scale your own growth and contribution, which is the most fulfilling thing in the world? I mean, you talk about this all the time in your speeches, like how unfulfilled your life used to be, even though you made six figures. What's the difference between, I mean, to be completely frank, you make less money now than you did back then, and so do I, but we're way more fulfilled. Why? Because we've grown way more and we're contributing way more on a consistent basis. Why? Because of our body of work.
Yeah.
Right now, there's 353 episodes of us adding value to other people's lives and helping them improve the quality of their lives. The work is bigger than us, in my opinion. And maybe this is just me because I'm so focused on legacy, but this is why mastery matters. The difference between Marshall Mathers, a young rapper in a trailer park, and Eminem is the mastery of his craft. And if people can just get that and focus on the mastery more than the shiny stuff will come.
Well, it's even that, like, I think it's easier for us to say, I used to make more money than I do now because I know that's not forever.
Exactly.
Because I do believe I can master this. Eminem did believe he could master rapping. Like, he came out in a time where there was almost no white rappers.
Right.
He grew up in Detroit. Like, he was one of the only white kids.
Let's not forget Vanilla Ice. You know what I mean?
Right. He set the game. But I do think it's like, I don't think a lot of people talk about what comes with mastery.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, could I have mastered podcasting while doing my other job? Maybe, but it would have been unreasonably difficult.
Very, very difficult.
It would have been unreasonably difficult. And when I say, like, I went all in because I want everything that comes with this. I want to be the best at this. I don't want to dabble. I don't want to just have a podcast. Like, we've said that since the beginning.
I know.
I don't want to just have a podcast. I'm not just another podcaster.
Which has made all the difference.
I know.
That's made all the difference.
I know. But I want people to understand, like, sometimes the beginning of the process of mastery requires you to take some steps back, like some big steps back.
Oh, can you go into that a little bit more in terms of your own personal experience?
I went from having a 6-figure income to literally not making any money for the first 2 years, basically.
Right.
But because what was I doing for the first 2 years? I was investing in me.
Right.
I was becoming more valuable. I was becoming a more valuable commodity. And that's kind of like, you get paid for your value. That's why Eminem, and it's based on your body of work, obviously.
Right.
Right. But like, it's
based on your perceived value, which is increased by the body of work. But here's the interesting thing about that too, Kev, is I was watching a TED Talk the other night. I sent you a link to this. and it's super powerful. He talks about time management and how to multiply your time. And you blew my mind when you said that you actually don't just have 8 hours a day to work. If you hire other people, you have their 8 hours too, so you can multiply time. And that's a beautiful thing because it's a win-win because they need money. It's they have a job, right? You're creating jobs. This is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And by the way, if you want to increase your productive output and help other people get jobs and be more productive, it's a beautiful thing, right? We're all going to benefit from doing more, not less. So I was watching a TED Talk and it broke down productivity and where you spend your time very interestingly. He said there are 3 types of people with time. There are people that spend time, there are people who invest time, and then there are people who multiply time. Very cool. So people who spend time, I'll give you an example. I was watching a movie with Liam Neeson the other night. Like I was not invested. That's not changing my personal development.
Which
I mean,
one?
technically, dude, it was the one where he was. I'm gonna end up giving away the ending because I don't remember the name.
Was it the Grey?
No, I love that movie. Liam Neeson's awesome,
Yeah.
man. Yeah. No, it was a different one where he was like an undercover Russian spy,
Okay.
but didn't know it. He got amnesia. I think it's called
Could be
Unbroken.
Any movie.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Taken 6.
Taken-
Yeah, it's just bad parenting. No, so but anyways, so you have people who spend time, people who invest time, people who multiply time. The people who spend time, it's when they're doing something that does not contribute to their own personal growth or to the growth of their skill sets. Okay, that's fine. We've all been there. I do that too, right? But the key is where you picture a pie chart. Mastery is about making sure most of that pie chart is spent in your genius zone.
Right.
We talk about genius zone a lot in one of our masterminds. Kim Spencer, shout out to her for bringing that to us. She said, when I'm live, I thrive. So she spends most of her time, I was coaching her recently, on the things that she's best at, where her greatest level of contribution comes from. So the people who spend time are not in their genius zone. The people who invest time are spending their time in their genius zone. Now here's the people who multiply time. And this is the way I've thought for a long time, but I've never explained it as well as this TED Talk did. And I hope we get to interview him. His name's Rory Vader. He said, the people who multiply time have 3-dimensional thinking. In other words, you're not just spending time, you're not just investing time, you're basing your decisions based on how significant the investment of time is. In other words, if you and I were to take time to write a book, and then that book was more, picture that book adding value. Let's just put a point system to this. The first day you write the book, it adds value to 1 person. The second day, the second week that it's out, it 4 people pick it up. The third week, 8 people, then 16 people, then 32 people, then 64 people, then 128, then 256, right? So, and I could keep going. You're multiplying time. You're multiplying value, but you're taking the time to write the book now, but it multiplies for the rest of your life and even beyond your own life.
Scale, basically.
It's scale, exactly. And so mastery is about what skills must I develop to have a greater positive impact on my loved ones, my family, on the world, and how do I design my life around those skills?
It's interesting. So we have 1:40. I wanted to go into, we talked about study, practice, teach.
Yeah.
But we have another, what would you call it? Fundamental, another framework.
Cycle.
It's like a circle. It's like
a snowball.
So prep, rep, reflect, and perfect.
Yeah. So for all the listeners, this is what Kevin and I have been running for a very long time. And it's the snowball of mastery is what I kind of refer to it as. Prep, rep, reflect, perfect. So the prep is Kevin and I, right before this episode, we talked about what we wanted this episode to be. So we prepped for the episode. And what's interesting is prep is also macro. So like we've been preparing technically for this episode our whole life in a way in terms of what we're doing with our time. But prep, rep, reflect, perfect. Prep is the prep work prior to the episode. The rep is actually doing the episode and adding as much value as we possibly can. Reflect is reviewing the episode after the fact to see where we can improve. And then perfect is making those improvements for the next time. And we're 350 episodes in now. We have 350 report cards of where we've been saying too many times, when we've saying like too many times, of when we interrupted each other when we shouldn't have. Like I was just watching one recently where I was saying right and Zoom was cutting to me instead of you right in the middle of your clip. And I was like, oh my God. But if I wasn't willing to review and take that feedback and make the correction, and that's the thing, you're never going to be perfect. Forget about perfect. shoot for better each time. And then eventually you'll be way beyond what you ever thought was possible.
I had something, but I forgot what I was going to say. It was about it was about the TED Talk you were talking about, but I don't even know if it had anything to do with it.
Multiplying time?
Who knows?
Who knows, man?
Oh, podcast.
Yeah.
That's what a podcast does. For every 20-minute episode, this is going to be 30 minutes, probably 33 after we get done with it, knowing us. But for every person that listens to that, it only takes us 33 minutes of our time, preamble, postamble.
Exactly.
40 minutes. How many lives can you impact in 40 minutes?
Exactly.
And then the other thing is, too, it works the other way a little bit as well. We have 354 episodes. If we get one new listener, that's a possible 354 listens or 354 views. So that's the other way. Like, that's what scale is. We'll have to talk about that eventually.
And one last thing, if you don't mind me saying, let's say we get one new listener and we change their life. We help them improve their life. They change their life, but we help them. Okay. What if that person then goes and helps 1,000 people?
Right.
And then those 1,000 people help 1,000 people. So this ripples outward very, very quickly. So, but it is predicated on mastery. We can only help others to the extent that we're great at what we do. For us, it's communication. We have to get really good at influence and communication and podcasting and speaking. For other people, I don't know what it is, but figure out what it is in advance, focus your efforts there, and I promise you, your life will scale.
Speaking of mastering communication and helping other people, I got a very, very nice email from somebody who attended one of our recent masterminds. She reached out and said, I wanted to give a big shout out to you and Alan for this amazing mastermind. She's talking about the 5 buckets. I've been searching for my tribe in the personal development area for a while. And though I've met some folks here and there, to be in this room with so many others in pursuit of their best selves has been refreshing and energizing. The 5 buckets was illuminating. And though I suspected many of my nostalgia and maintenance buckets were overflowing, the lesson really resonated with me, which is great because that's always our goal. I am more intentional of where and with whom I spend my time now more than ever. I've seen amazing growth with you both since I saw you in person last summer at the Confident Women Consortium in Groton. Shout out to Joyce Strong. You both set a remarkable example for the power of personal development and the commitment to growing. Thank you. Thank you for all that you're doing. It is making a difference, and I appreciate it greatly.
Oh my God, dude. That makes all the hard work worth it.
Yeah, but and this is a great thing to read for this. I've seen amazing growth with you, right? You both set a remarkable example for the power of personal development. Mastery. We're trying to master this.
Right.
And that's what it looks like along the way. It looks like progress. That's the goal. If we're not making progress, we're not mastering. So again, the email I sent back was like full of love. And I said, at one point, this was just a dream. Like, to be not only to podcast, but like to be able to do a mastermind. Right. And have people come in and ask questions and like genuinely be able to see us one-on-one and impact them and see their face when we say something. It's like a speech every week. So if you guys are looking to, like, maybe it's find your tribe, maybe it's to build confidence, maybe it's to find a connection, maybe it's to break something free, to build whatever it is, we're talking about it. Like, whether it's the 5 buckets, the drive to 5, we're going to do the 5 love languages this Monday. So if you're in a relationship or you want to be in an amazing one, tune in.
This Monday would be Mark.
Oh, yes.
So after that, so we're having Mark Metries coming on to talk about social anxiety. So if you struggle with anxiety, that's your time. He literally wrote the book on social anxiety, literally. And Kevin interviewed him for the audiobook, which will be out at some point soon.
Yes.
So real quick here, I just want to talk a little bit about one-on-one coaching. So I am extremely mastery driven by nature. I've always been that way, whether it was professional gaming or, sales and persuasion or even getting my engineering degree. I've always been really into being good at things. It's just been in my nature. If it's not in your nature, that's okay. Get around someone who it is in their nature. And Kevin and I have designed our life around mastery. And I was on a phone with a client literally yesterday, and we dialed in her system of success. And afterwards, she said, thank you. We went over on time, naturally. She said, thank you so much for the extra time. And I'm so excited about this new system. We have her doing inner work and outer work every single day. And outer work, it says in parentheses on her spreadsheet, skills. We have chosen in advance the skills she wants to master. She wants to master business. She wants to master relationships. And she wants to master influence. And so all of the books I'm recommending to her, all of the podcast episodes I'm sending her, all of the coaching is around those skills that she intends to master. Why? Because in her future, the life that she has designed, those are the skills that she's going to require. And that is possible for all of us. If you think about Kevin and I's life now compared to what it used to be, one of the main differences is the skills we've mastered.
Yeah.
If you want to add value to other people, you're going to have to develop skills, and we can help you do that.
For sure. I call it lifestyle coaching. That's what I call it. Because if you're not running your business in your life, then you're not going to, number one, you're not going to last very long.
Right.
And you're not going to be happy. You're not going to be fulfilled. Like, it's got to be incorporated.
100%. Lifestyle design.
This is up next. We have an episode with Matt Zinman. He is an author. He is a lot of things. He is a nonprofit. He's a speaker. We talked a lot about intuition, like manifestation. We went very, very deep with him. He has a book called Z-isms, Insights to Live By, I believe.
Yep.
And his DM is basically that. It's an insight to live by. So, mine is the biggest difference between the person you are and the person you want to be is your habits, right? Stuff like that. So right. I'm actually looking forward very much to reading that full book, but this was a very, very good interview with him.
Yeah, he struggled with depression. So if you've ever had any challenges with that, you'll really love and resonate with this. He also talked about amplifying gratitude.
Yeah.
That was really powerful. I liked that concept. Really, really great rep. So don't miss that. That's Sunday at noon.
Sunday at noon. We're moving up the episodes because you guys requested it. And without you, this would be just two bums talking about things. Closing, Jeff.
10-second blips.
10-second blips. I'm going to leave this one up to you. This is your topic.
I will borrow from Brian Tracy. If you don't love what you do enough to want to be the best at it, get out of it like you would a burning building. The thing that's interesting is if I love podcasting and you don't, what are the chances that you're going to be as good as me?
Pretty low.
Try to find what you love and fall in love with the process of mastery. It's not always going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it for sure.
And my 10-second blip is we will talk to you on Sunday.
Talk to you soon.
We hope you enjoyed, and we will talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.